So this is Labor Day weekend, and I think Labor Day weekend and this gospel text fit together incredibly well, right? Because what we're doing on Labor Day weekend is celebrating all the labor and all the ways in which we work to make the world better, right? And how our jobs and our vocations will line up sometimes, or our jobs allow us to pursue our vocations, right? I mean, that's sort of the big celebration of Labor Day. And when it comes for us as Christians, this is one of the big discussions over this idea of job versus vocation. And let me walk you through why. So let's start off with the actual conversation. This has been one of those things that whenever I heard it growing up, it always shocked me, right? Because up to this point, like you remember last week, Jesus was saying like, who am I, right? And Peter eventually comes back and says, well, you're the Messiah. And Jesus really praises him for that answer. But since that point, what's been going on is Jesus has been walking around, as it indicated early on, and basically saying, all right, so now y'all know that I'm the Messiah. Let me explain to you what that means. And what that means is we're going to go to Jerusalem, they're going to grab me, and I'm going to die. But I'll raise 3 days later. Okay? And they've been hearing this over and over and over and over again, that this is what's going to happen. This is what it means to be the Messiah. And clearly, Jesus says it one too many times and was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back of Peter. Because Peter pulls him aside when he tells him this and goes, Jesus, seriously, do you not understand what it means to be the Messiah? You are supposed to lead a military revolution, overthrow the Roman Empire, free the kingdom of David, establish it in Jerusalem, reconquer all the lands of the kingdom of David, and reestablish for the next billion years that there's a holy kingdom established here under the line of David, which you are to restore as a child of David, right? Because remember, he's in the lineage of David. And he turns to Peter and says, Satan, get behind me. And talk about something escalating real quick. Have you ever been in one of those conversations that you're going along and then boom, things have totally exploded? Which should lead us to the question of what is going on in that first part? Why is Jesus all of a sudden going from like explaining something sort of informationally to get behind me, Satan? Because from that point on, he is just tearing on good old Peter. He gives an indication of what he's getting at. He says, Peter, you're messing this up. You are putting your mind on human things, not on divine things. So let's talk about what that means. Peter's got a human idea of what the Messiah means, right? Now, from a human perspective, the idea that a group of farmers are going to pick up swords without military training and defeat the Roman Empire, which is at its height of power at this point, okay? That a population of maybe 60, 70,000 people, mostly untrained, will overthrow the most advanced military of the entire world at that point, who can bring literally tens of thousands of soldiers, legion after legion after legion against you, is pretty big human thinking, right? That is shooting pretty high there from the standpoint of a human. That'd be a massive human accomplishment if it was accomplished. But what Jesus is doing as the Messiah is looking even bigger. He's saying, heck, empires come, empires go. Rome is here today. It will be gone tomorrow. I'm here to take care of the things humans can't take care of. I'm here to defeat the death, the devil, and sin. I'm here not to provide you with a perfect country or a perfect kingdom or a glorious temple, but I am here to provide you the things humanity can never provide for themselves, salvation. See, when we think of human things, no matter how large, they always pale in comparison to the things of the divine. For God's plan is always greater than our greatest conceptions. And that is what he's reminding Peter. He's saying, Peter, you're thinking too small. Because I'm thinking on a different level, a divine level. But he doesn't stop there. He turns to the rest of the disciples, right? He just tore Peter down pretty hard. He's not going to turn to the rest of the disciples and hit them pretty hard too, right? Because he's going to then follow up and say, hey, all y'all, just so you know, if you're going to go ahead and what is it worth it if you go ahead and if you go ahead and gain the whole world but you lose your life? You should lose your life for me and gain eternal salvation, right? He has this whole little diatribe that comes next in that next paragraph. He's saying that because what he's trying to do is warn of the dangers of thinking of human things over divine things. Think about it. In human terms, okay? The greatest anything any human could accomplish, right, would be to gather all the wealth, all the power, and all the resources on the entire planet, right? And yet, we know, even through science rather than religion, that, we're a planet. One small planet in a medium-sized solar system with a medium-sized star, which is probably one of millions within our galaxy, and there may be more than one galaxy. So from the perspective of God, even the greatest of human thinking, even the greatest of human accomplishments is ruling a small marble. And yet, people will give their life for far less. People will spend their entire life, alienate their family for wealth or fame. They won't concentrate on the things that are actually worth it in life because they're pursuing power. Talk to any police officer, they can give you all sorts of tales of where power and money and greed leads people that aren't good, right? See, what we're being reminded of is the danger of thinking on human terms and telling ourselves those are the greatest of things, is that we end up squandering our life. Because the hardest thing about life is actually living it. But what does this mean for us? What does it mean for us today as Christians sitting here today on this Labor Day? Well, it is a reminder that we are to listen to Christ because Christ will help set our minds on divine things. Now, a disclaimer about divine things. Divine things is not about sitting and contemplating some theological idea in some ivory tower somewhere. Divine things can be super simple. Every year or every week we pray, God's kingdom come, right? Part of the Lord's Prayer. Most of us know that, right? What we mean when we say that is that we're part of this creation. God calls each and every one of us to a vocation, to be part of his plan, to be his hands in our world, right? And by doing that, we help usher in God's kingdom on earth by being merciful, being kind, by feeding the poor, by clothing the naked, by fighting against injustice. When you are part of God's plan, when you are asking God, what can I do? Where am I called? What is my vocation? That's when you're setting your mind on divine things. Because you understand that we are all part of one community of God. Listening, hoping, learning where God calls us. An example. Let's say there's a soup kitchen. Now, a Christian can read the Bible and can feel a call from God and say, God is calling me to go ahead and serve food at the soup kitchen, right? Feeding the hungry, big part of the Bible. An atheist can, for ethical reasons, philosophical reasons, political reasons, come to the same conclusion, right? And so you and the atheist can be standing next to each other, one of you handing out turkey and the other handing out mashed potatoes, right? But here's the difference. When you go, if you are going as part of God's plan and following what he wants and listening to him, you are part of a divine structure to a better world. A world that is permanent. A world of God's kingdom to come. The atheist standing next to you is doing an ethical, moral, and good thing. Atheists can do that. but they're doing it to something that's temporary. If they're doing it for political reasons, parties come, parties go. Look at U.S. history. They're doing it for national reasons. Countries come, countries go. Look at world history. Doing it for ideological reasons. Ideologies come, ideologies go. Look at world history. Whatever they're doing it for is something temporary. But whatever you're doing it for is something permanent. And therefore, you are living as God called you to do. My own life, the way I separate out job and vocation is, most of you know that before I became a pastor, I worked in anti-money laundering. Okay? I was a really good anti-money launderer. Please hear the anti. You hear only the last part, it makes me sound really bad. Anti-money launderer. And I did good. We busted people who were selling drugs. We busted terrorists. We busted mujahideen fighters. We did great things, me and my little group, okay, in finance. It was ethical. It was moral. It was good. It was a fun adventure. But it was a job. Why was it a job? Because it wasn't what God was calling me to do. It's what I did to put food on the table so I could pursue my vocation of becoming a pastor. I enjoyed it. It was fun, but I never was living. I never had the satisfaction that I do by coming here every day. Because there's a difference between doing what you gotta do and doing what you love doing. Now, I am one of the lucky ones because I can get paid for doing my vocation. Not everyone can. But the key as a Christian is to figure out what your vocation is and then figure out how to do it. Maybe you're lucky too and you get paid for doing your vocation. But if you're not, that's why most people have a job that they do, which hopefully you at least enjoy, and then a vocation of being part of that divine plan. So as you go out today on this Labor Day weekend, take a few minutes in your life and take a few minutes in your prayer life and ask yourself a very simple question. Are you putting your mind on divine things and following the vocation God called you to do? And if not, how can you?